Graduation ceremony. In a minute, it'll be my pleasure to introduce the class of 2018. Before we do that, I'd like to offer some thank yous. First to City Council for giving us this opportunity and for being here tonight for this important occasion. Specifically, Mayor Regal and at-large Council Member George Hellinger for taking part in their sessions.
Regal, not Regal.
And it was very helpful to have you there and kind of letting the group know what it's like to be on council. Also to our departments. The academy is more than one person. We had about 30 people on staff this year that took part in the academy, just in the departments. And it would not be possible without them. They and the class have been working with me since February through May on twice a month on preparing their sessions. And we really did some new things this year that we're going to try and keep going throughout the rest of the academy. But it was a good year. And again, I want to thank the departments, and I'd like to do that by name. City Manager Tom Holman, Finance Director Dean Stelzer, and his staff, Lori Johnson and Rob Alger, Economic Development Director Sean Hughes, City Attorney Darren Shulman, Bill Farino and his staff, Linda Matthews, Charles Dukes, Joe Bollis, Fred Chris, Matt Weber. From the fire department, Chief John Donahue and his some great firefighters this year, Bill Jones, John Stewart, Nick Hiley, and Keith Simon. From the utilities department, Blake Jordan, Carolyn Cicherici, Janelle Valdinger, Brian Livingston, and Greg Dobigan. From Parks and Natural Resources, Director Ted Miller and his staff, including Superintendent Stacy Davenport and golf course staff. Police Chief Bruce Pichanowski and Planning Director Dave Eflin. They all did a great job, and I wish we could get on camera, record their presentations, because you get a real sense of how much they enjoy what they do and how important it is to them. What also struck me, and I think the class would echo this, is in some cases we had people that don't speak for a living, that don't maybe interact with residents, and man, you put them on the stage and watch them, and they do such a great job. You'd be very proud of your staff, your frontline people that have a chance to interact and do it very well. Finally, I'd like to thank the class of 2018. I've said it the first session, and I will say it now. I don't know if I would sign up for this class. That you guys did, I think, is outstanding. It says so much about your like and love for the city of Delaware and your desire to be involved with it. So give yourselves a round of applause for taking part. This class was unique. Every year I say that, but this class was unique for several reasons. The most interesting was we had 3 married couples this year. It's the first time that's happened. Maybe it's because we start around Valentine's Day. I don't know. Maybe that's it. Husbands are hard up for something to give their wives. And it's like, come on, honey, we're going to go tour the sludge plant. I don't know. But whatever, we had 3 married couples. So that was a first for us. All wards were represented once again. I did the math today. I think we had residents as new as less than 2 years and residents with nearly 50 years in the city, and the average was about 12. The class was also special in that they didn't wait to get involved till after graduation. I saw members at public hearings that were taking place on other issues for council. There are members of the class this year that already serve on subcommittees in the city of Delaware. So they already are getting their feet wet in all things city of Delaware. As I mentioned earlier, we changed up a few things this year. One was we moved the finance session from last to near the front. And I think we'll keep it that way. It seemed to resonate good with the class, to kind of get that base of finance before we went out into the field, so to speak. So I think we'll do that. We also got away from PowerPoint this year. That's always one of my goals. And we were able to do that by design and by some great work by staff, but also by some happy accidents. We were able to put the class to work very quickly. They were a focus group for our Access Delaware Transportation Initiative. They also, in their last session, kind of were the pioneers of the upcoming comp plan update. They went through the exercise that our steering committee and some of the subcommittees on the comp plan will do when that starts up. So this class really rolled up their elbows and got to work. We did went to the wastewater plant this year and learned how technology is helping our utilities department. That was new and that was fun. And maybe the most fun was they got to play golf at Hidden Valley. That was another thing we did new this year that we're going to try to keep in the rotation. The parks session was at Hidden Valley, and they got to play golf and have some competition games on the putting green. So it was a nice change of pace. So I've told you a little bit about the academy and about the class while we meet them. So, Madam Mayor, if you're ready. So we'll call your names and you can come up and receive your diploma and a handshake. Would you like to offer any remarks first?
I just want to thank you all for taking the time to take the class, because in a roundabout way, you all help us. When your neighbor has a question about something about the city, you most likely will have that answer. It really does help us a lot. I'm so glad that you're all encouraged to want to learn about your city, your community, and hopefully we'll see more of you in other boards and commissions and possibly even on council. That's where Chris Jones came from, right? So I want to thank you. And I like the idea about the dates, date nights. So we're getting 3 couples in place.
All right, our class of 2018, Adam Haynes. Do that again for your.
Oh, sorry.
There you go. There you go. Well, that's okay. We can stand you. I saw her getting a position. Yeah, let's do that. We'll start a new tradition. Yeah. Why not? I like that. Aaron Nicely.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Dean Scanlon.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Glenn Badishill.
Your line can start coming this way. You're good.
Oh, no, we're good.
We like it.
We like it.
Please.
Pete Johansson.
Excellent. Good. Great.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Do the couples together. Okay. Todd Butcher.
You at least take our meeting after or before each meeting? Okay, good. Congratulations. Thank you.
Stacy Butcher.
Thank you so much.
Lynn Bloomquist.
Thank you very much. Congratulations. Thank you.
Scott Pansing.
Thank you.
Linda Pansing.
Great. Congratulations. Thank you.
Nancy Rieger.
Thank you.
Yvonne Strassman. Nate Brown. Carol McNamara. Steve McNamara. With that, it's my pleasure to present the graduating class of 2018. Stay there. Switch over to my other phone here.
Would any of you like to talk about your experience or what you learned or some funny stories? Anything about me?
Last fall, at the League of Women Voters meeting, candidates, the mayor here encouraged my wife and I to sign up for this academy. And I'm glad she did. We did it. It's always nice to find out what's going on behind the scenes, like we can have to go ahead and hidden spaces. We like to see the hidden spaces in the city. We learn a lot of things. And I think Carol and I came with the idea that each department feels like they're spending their own money. And you watch out for the budget, you take care of the equipment, and what they're doing. One downside though, my road does not get cleared. Bill is two doors down from me.
Neither does mine. So don't feel bad.
So, but I appreciate the opportunity. I think it's great. Keep on doing it. He sends out emails and stuff to what's going on, and so we can avoid central idea when they're going to work on
Right.
that sort of thing. So,
Does it make it any easier to pay those taxes when you have now where all money's being spent?
I think it does.
Not this week.
I feel like you know what you're getting. Before, it's like, I don't know what I'm getting. Now I know. And I have had conversations with neighbors about mailboxes getting smashed. I said, they got the snow plows cut just right. Your box gets hit because you don't have your box right place.
So you just say, good, one more phone call.
Those are probably so crap.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I would just sort of add to that. I think it was a really enlightening experience for sure. But the other thing I think, for me, it was a really nice reminder and a nice opportunity, because you think about the idea of local rule and municipal rule, it's fairly unique in the United States and a few other places. And it allowed us to have that ability to see that, and to remember that democracy in our local government is not them, council, or the city staff, it's everyone, and it's of us. And to be able to share that opportunity and come here and learn about it and be involved in it, as was mentioned, I think that was a really amazing opportunity. So I just wanted to say thank you to everyone that participated.
I'd just like to say special thanks to Lee for coordinating. You did a fantastic job. This was probably one of my favorite learning experiences that I can recall. I mean, after going through a lot, just the hands-on experience, and I enjoyed being a citizen of Delaware before this, but it made me appreciate being a citizen even more so. Delaware is a great community. We do a lot to reach out and to bring people together. And so I'm very proud to go through this. And I've been talking Delaware Storm to neighbors and things, so I will continue to encourage people to do this academy. And I met some great people here. So just want to thank everybody for hosting this, and I'm really proud to be here. So thank you.
Lee deserves a round of applause.
Yeah, I
I guess I do. I want to thank the council for allowing this program to continue. You see there's, 18, 19 of us this year that wanted to do this. And I think that's an average-ish sort of class. If there's a lot of interest in the city, and to the directors and the chiefs to take time out of the work that they do normally to help us understand. And really what I got out of this was the pride and the energy that your staff really puts into the city of Delaware and really engages with the citizens, and we appreciate that very, very much.
Certainly after that, I think I'm the newest president. Went through the academy this year, and it really was a fantastic way to learn about the community. And I've urged a lot of the friends I've made in Delaware to take part in this program, because it really does help you understand how the city works and what you can do to get involved.
Yes, very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I've been living in and writing about the city for almost 4 years, and this course was really great for me to just get a lot of perspective about a lot of things that happen behind the scenes that I normally wouldn't know about. So it's something personally and professionally a great deal.
Yeah.
All right, we'll adjourn out to the west steps for a class photo. And then you're welcome to come back in for the meeting. It'll start at 7. All right. So if you don't want to come back, you can take your stuff with you. We won't be heartbroken.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Time is 7 o'clock, and we'll call June 11th, 2018 City Council meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Mrs. Keller?
Here.
Mr. Browning?
Here.
Mr. Rohr?
Here.
Mr. Hellinger?
Here.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Here.
Mayor Riggle?
Here. Tonight's invocation will be led by Nicole Ganzi of the Islamic Center of Delaware County, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll all please stand. Come to the microphone.
Sure.
As we find ourselves in the month of Ramadan, our fast in the Muslim community is not a new concept, but it's an unbroken testament of faith in the Abrahamic traditions. This is a month of self-evaluation. Where have we been over the past year and where we would like to see ourselves in the upcoming one? It's a time to recharge and to remotivate. We distance ourselves from the material pursuits of this world. We empty ourselves of the physical comforts of this life so that we can fill our hearts and souls with that which gives us meaning. So as you open your meeting tonight, our prayer is simple. May we be granted time to recharge and replenish ourselves as we strive to be the best we can be. May we be guided by that which unites us, finding common ground and acceptance. May we find our hearts filled with empathy, humility, patience, and gratitude. May we truly come to know what it is to live our lives purposefully and not just live out our days. And in the example of Prophet Muhammad, who teaches us, we are truly believers only when we want for our neighbor what we want for ourselves. May we offer up the best of ourselves to raise up our community for the benefit of us all. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 4 is the approval of motion summary. Elaine, if you'll please read this into the record.
Would you like to do these individually or together?
You can do it together.
Approval of the motion summary of the work session and regular meeting of council held on May 14th, 2018 as recorded and transcribed. And approval of the motion summary of the special meeting of council held on May 21st, 2018 as recorded and transcribed.
Thank you.
Move for approval. Second.
Motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Mr. Jones. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes, motion carries. Item 5 on the agenda is the consent agenda. Elaine, if you'll please read this into the record.
Item A, acceptance of the motion summary of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board meeting held on April 17, 2018 as recorded and transcribed. Item B, acceptance of the motion summary of the Recreation Levy Subcommittee meeting held on February 27, 2017 as recorded and transcribed. Item C, acceptance of the motion summary of the Civil Service Commission meeting held on May 2, 2018 as recorded and transcribed. Item D, acceptance of the motion summary of the Planning Commission meeting held on May 2, 2018 as recorded and transcribed. Item E, resolution number 18-30, a resolution authorizing the city manager to sign an agreement between the City of Delaware and the Ohio Department of Natural Resources Division of Wildlife to provide funding and assistance. Item F, resolution number 18-31, a resolution authorizing the city manager to sign a memorandum of understanding between the Delaware County Board of Developmental Disabilities and the City of Delaware to partner in the presentation of Safety Town. Item G, resolution number 18-32, resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an intergovernment agreement between Delaware County through the Board of County Commissioners for backup building official services on an as-needed basis. Item H, resolution number 18-33, a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation, ODOT, for the installation and maintenance of the proposed traffic signal at US 23 and Hawthorne Boulevard. Item I, established June 25th, 2018 at 7:35 p.m. as a date and time for a public hearing, second reading for ordinance number 18-47, An ordinance approving a conditional use permit request by Delaware Bible Church for a temporary trailer modular classroom on approximately 7.53 acres zoned R3, one family residential district, and located at 45 Bell Avenue. Item J, established June 25th, 2018 at 7:40 p.m. as a date and time for public hearing and second reading for ordinance number 18-48, an ordinance approving a rezoning amendment request by Planned Communities, Inc. for property owned by Francis and Mary Lou Wilgus on approximately 89.61 acres, parcel number 419-220-02-005-000 and 419-220-02-007-000 from A1 Agricultural District to M1 PMU, light manufacturing with a planned mixed-use overlay district at 2781 Airport Road, located on the western terminus of Sawmill Parkway, east of Section Line Road, south of Airport Road, and north of the future extended Sawmill Parkway. And for ordinance number 18-49, an ordinance approving a conditional use permit request by Planned Communities, Inc., allowing the placement of a PMU, planned mixed-use overlay district, to be established for property owned by Francis and Mary Lou Wilgus on approximately 89.618 acres, parcel number 419-220-02-005-000 and 419-220-02-007-000 at 2781 Airport Road, located on the western terminus of Sawmill Parkway, east of Section Line Road, south of Airport Road, and north of the future extended Sawmill Parkway. Item K. I'm sorry. Established June 25th, 2018 at 7:45 p.m. as a date and time for a public hearing and second reading for ordinance number 18-50, an ordinance for Manos Properties for approval of a rezoning amendment for the Wesleyan Inn on approximately 1.09 acres, parcel 519-433-04-005-000 and parcel 519-433-04-002 from POI Planned Office Institutional District and R3 One Family Residential District to POI and R3 PMU Planned Mixed Use Overlay District at 235 and 239 West William Street, and for ordinance number 18-51, an ordinance for Manos Properties for approval of a conditional use permit allowing the placement of a PMU Planned Mixed Use Overlay District to be established for the Wesleyan Inn on approximately 1.09 acres, parcel number 519-433-04-005-000 and 519-433-04-002 at 235 and 239 West William Street.
Thank you. What is the wish of council?
Move for approval of the consent agenda. Yeah. I just had one question, just clarification. Item H, Councilman Browning had asked me about this earlier today. This is a resolution authorizing the city to enter into an agreement with ODOT in connection with a traffic signal at Hawthorne and the Coghlan's Crossing project. And that is triggered by that development of that project, if I stand correct. That's not an installation of a signal today or tomorrow. It is triggered, I believe, with respect to the actual development plan. So this is really a housekeeping item to make sure that we have an agreement in place with ODOT for that future maintenance of that signal. And there was discussion, Bill, I think you want to just clarify that with the HOA earlier on about that.
Oh, yeah, regarding the whole changes with staff a few times with HOA regarding changes to the island. The island's getting pushed back further. This is the landscape island on Hawthorne Boulevard. Get back to the purpose. It's just when a signal goes up on 23, ODOT has to approve it, and then they want to know that we're going to maintain that signal. It's going to meet their specs. That's what the agreement really does. Establishes our requirement to maintain the signal in the future once it does go up at the time when Coghlan's Crossing does decide to start to move forward.
Thank you.
Just wanted to clarify that.
Madam Mayor, I'm going to abstain due to item G being a contract between the city and the county.
Okay. We can take that out and you can vote on everything else if you want to. Vote separately on that.
If that's the wish of council.
So did you make a motion? Would you exclude item G?
Yes, so I'll approve the consent agenda exclusive of item G.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Schaefer, a second by Mr. Browning. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes, motion carries.
I'll move for the approval of item G on the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Mr. Browning. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Abstain.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes. Item 6 on the agenda is time set aside for letters, petitions, or public comment for anything that is not on tonight's agenda. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to come forward at this time?
Is
You
it
come-
on tonight's agenda, or tonight's agenda, comments on tonight's agenda?
Anything that is not on tonight's agenda?
Oh, no, okay, I think you're already.
Oh, sorry. Sir, if you'll come forward to the microphone here in the second row. Mhm. And then as you get seated, we'll need your name and address for the record into the microphone, please.
My name is Richard Jackson, 270 West Fountain Avenue, Delaware, Ohio.
Thank you. And what are you here for this evening? What are you here for this evening?
Oh, what am I here for?
Yes.
I represent a group called One People, and we are in partnership with the
Delaware Community Coalition.
thank
Can you
you.
pull the microphone up for him, please?
We're in partnership with the coalition to sponsor this Saturday's get-together to celebrate Juneteenth and to get to know more of our neighbors in Delaware.
Okay.
And I'm here to explain a little bit about what's going to happen on Saturday. I guess my question is, who do I explain it to? You or?
We're all listening.
Okay.
Microphone, we'll all hear it.
All right. One of the purposes of the get-together on Saturday is to get to know your neighbors in Delaware. We're trying to unify our city a little bit more so we get to visit with everybody else that lives in Delaware as one people, which is the name of my organization, by the way. We're also here on Saturday to celebrate Juneteenth. I assume there are a number of people that do not know what Juneteenth is. That was a day in June the 19th, 1865, when the United States sent its troops into Texas to assist them in eliminating slavery in that state. And it worked. And when that was eliminated, that started the movement among the rest of the holdouts to make our country totally free of slavery. It's known as Juneteenth, and since that date, it's been pretty much a celebration in our Black communities throughout the country. We're trying to upgrade that a little bit, make it more inclusive, because it's our view that when slavery was eliminated in our country, the big winner was humanity. And so that applies to all of us. We're going to meet Saturday from 10 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon. The first thing we're going to do is there was an old expression in our Black community back years ago when the railroad tracks and went across South Liberty Street, that we don't go north of the tracks, primarily because they thought that would be unwelcome territory at the time. We're going to start out by going north of the tracks symbolically. And when we finish that, we're going to go back to the park behind the post office on South Liberty Street, where we're going to start with the program. We're having guest speakers. The first one will be a man named Charles Kellum, who is on the faculty at Ohio Wesleyan University. He's going to give us a lot of information about Juneteenth and what it means to people. Then following that, we're going to have our honorary history leader, Brent Carson, tell us a little bit more about the history of Delaware's history, particularly as it applies to the Underground Railroad, which was quite prevalent in Delaware at the time. Following that, there's going to be a skit by the History Society about the Underground Railroad in costume. We're also going to have a special guest, a man named Briss Craig. A lot of people in Delaware are familiar with Briss. He is very knowledgeable about the Black history in Delaware. And it started out with him getting some notoriety because in the Delaware Willis school year of 1946 and 47, the student body elected Briss, who is a Black student, as president of our student body. It took us 4 separate elections to finally get him in the job, but he made it and he was a very good one. But anyway, he's going to be up at the podium for anybody that wants to come and visit with him and reminisce a little bit. And then we're going to go on till 2 o'clock, and the rest of the information the chief can fill us in on.
I have nothing else to add to that. Dick stole my prepared statement. Just in general, it is meant to be an inclusive educational event. So we realize we're competing with a lot of events on Saturday, so we kind of tried to nestle it in between them. The program itself should be within an hour to an hour and 15 minutes, hopefully, and then the rest of the time is to build a sense of community, get to know our neighbors, and learn a little bit from both sides of the race discussion. So that is 10 o'clock Saturday morning. If you want to do the walk, that forms up at 9:45 at Woodward School, and we'll head north across the tracks. And then the program will start as soon as everyone gets to the gazebo right behind the fire department. And prior to that, we'll have some African music being performed, and afterwards we'll have a DJ and some music if everyone wants to hang out and get to know each other.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that would like to come forward for anything that is not on tonight's agenda? Okay, we'll move on to council comments. Mr. Jones?
I have none, Mayor.
Mrs. Keller?
I have none.
Mr. Browning?
I think just this past week, I learned that Lee's wife works at the YMCA, and I'm always impressed with how many spouses actually work somewhere in the community. Tom's wife works at Source Point. Chief's wife works at a school. Chief Donahue's wife. So anyway, these are truly community people. So thank you. You're not only giving yourselves, your spouses are doing it too.
Good. All right. Mr. Hellinger?
Nothing.
Mr. Schaefer?
Thank you. Parking and safety was scheduled to meet next Monday. Due to some conflicts, we're not going to be able to meet, but there's 2 pressing items. 3 members, Councilman Jones, Councilman Keller, and myself, want to move forward. So there's a parking restriction on Fountain Avenue near the school. It's rather timely because we want to get that done before school starts. And a request for a handicap parking space. So we're going to be recommending those come directly to council for approval.
Okay.
So I have.
All righty. At this time, is there someone here for autism tonight?
Alzheimer's or
I'm sorry. You're right. Maybe I have Alzheimer's.
Brain and Alzheimer's awareness.
Yes. Is there anyone here for this tonight? Okay. If you'll meet me down front, please. Start with an A. Whereas the city of Delaware has a responsibility to recognize occasions of outstanding civil achievement. And whereas June 2018 is Brain and Alzheimer's Awareness Month, recognizing the disease that affects 5.7 million Americans and 220,000 Ohioans. You're gonna have to do it. My dad knows all, so I can't, sorry.
Where did you go?
Just start the second one. Yes.
Okay. Whereas recognizing these events provide an opportunity to promote and join the global conversation about the brain and Alzheimer's diseases as a public health crisis. And whereas with no known way to slow or prevent Alzheimer's disease, essential public health services of early detection, risk reduction, and surveillance are necessary to protect and improve the health of the population at the population level. And whereas caregiving for individuals with Alzheimer's disease often takes an enormous toll on family members, caregivers themselves often suffer more stress, depression, and health problems than caregivers of people with other illnesses. And whereas we recognize the important role the Alzheimer's Association Central Ohio chapter plays in meeting the needs of people affected by Alzheimer's disease and other forms of dementia through family and clinical support, early detection and diagnosis of disease education, advocacy, and research. Therefore, our Mayor, Karen K. Riggle, and the City of Delaware do proclaim this month, June 2018, as Brain and Alzheimer's Awareness Month, and also proclaim August 11th, 2018, as the Delaware Walk to End Alzheimer's Day in the City of Delaware, and ask residents to participate in the October 11th, 2018 Walk to End Alzheimer's Day at Ohio Wesleyan University to help raise awareness and to take the first steps to a world without Alzheimer's disease. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi guys, I'm Lindsay Collins. I'm the walk director here for the Delaware Walk to End Alzheimer's. Our walk is on August 11th. We just wanted to say thank you guys for sharing your story. But yes, our walk is August 11th, and basically Alzheimer's disease is the 6th leading cause of death in the United States. There's no cure for this disease. There are so many people, I'm sure, in your lives that have been affected by it as well. The walk is actually a really awesome day. It's filled with hope. You see volunteers and walkers and family and friends all coming out for this wonderful cause. So we would love to have you. It is free to come and participate. We always encourage fundraising. I'd be a terrible fundraiser if I didn't ask you guys to fundraise for us. But we absolutely love having new people come and join us. So if you're interested, again, my name is Lindsay. You can go to our website. You'll find me on there. Give me an email, shoot me a call, whatever you need to do. But we just wanted to say thank you guys for.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Certainly.
Sorry I couldn't do that. I think it'd be really nice if this council did a team. I knew Elaine's father suffers with it too. So it'd be nice for maybe all of us to do it together. Okay, number 9 is consideration of a new liquor permit. I don't know if she can read either. We're a mess.
Consideration of a new liquor permit for City of Delaware doing business as Hidden Valley Golf Course at 580 West William Street, Delaware, Ohio, 43015.
Really, I think it'd probably be good for the chief just to come forward and indicate that we've, this is the city's application for a liquor permit to permit the sale of alcohol, beer in particular, at the golf course. And I don't believe we've had any issues.
No, I mean, we've had discussions about sale of alcohol at the golf course. This has been pending for quite a while. I know the application went in towards the end of spring, I believe, but we've never had an issue with Hidden Valley. It's a city-owned property, and as city-owned property, we'll keep an eye on it. I don't anticipate any problems.
And to clarify, this is beer only, right? No spirits? Just, is it beer and wine, just beer?
D1. It's a D1. It's a D1.
I wouldn't. Do you have a copy of the permit, Dave?
I don't have it from me. I just see it's D1.
I believe it's beer only, but I.
Okay.
Do you want a copy?
Yeah, if you have it.
Yeah, I think it's beer or wine. There's a lot of women that like to drink wine.
That's a B.
Well, that's not what I was looking for, but it is for a D1 permit.
Which permits?
Yes. I don't have the definitions on this permit.
Looking it up with my internet.
I can look it up real quick
I
here.
think he's got it. You have it
I'm
down?
trying, it's spinning the wheel of doom. We'll do a race.
I have it. Permit D1 may be issued to the owner of operating a hotel, retail, food establishment, operation license pursuant to chapter, revised code,
Beer. Just beer.
to beer.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Or in original containers having a capacity of not more than 5 1/6 gallons for consumption.
And I'll put Ted on the spot. Was that the intention? Was just in terms of the Parks Board?
You're on, okay.
Okay.
All right, what is the wish of council?
Recommend approval without objection.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Mr. Rohr. Nichols are often.
Can I have one more question? What are the hours of service?
Ted, I think you'll have to come to this microphone here and just
Our golf course is open. In the summer, we typically go to dusk. So I think our last tee time is about 8 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock on the longest days of the year. So 7:30 is probably our latest tee time. So we usually close the course by 8:30.
So what time would you would sell all the way up until 8:30?
Okay, if you have comments, you have to come to the microphone because everything's recorded. So you have to give your name and address.
Kelly Berry, 582 Presidential Way. And my question is, what would be the hours of operation when you would begin to sell it? I mean, I know that, I'm not sure what time you open in the morning, but is it from the moment that you open until the time that you close? To your last golfers on the course, is there a kind of like last call per hours per day?
Right now, we'd be pricing during when we're open. We open dawn to dusk, so during open hours. We haven't established any periods in the morning or anything that we wouldn't sell it yet, so we should still have the application in, so.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller? Yes. Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
No.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes, motion carries. Item 10 on the agenda is the third reading of ordinance number 18-37. Elaine, if you'll please read this into the record.
Ordinance number 18-37, an ordinance accepting the annexation of 89.618 plus or minus acres of land, more or less, description and map are attached hereto as exhibits A and B for the annexation known as the Wilgus annexation by Andrew P. Wecker, agent for the petitioners.
Madam Mayor, members of council, this is the final date, as I understand it, given to us by the Ohio Revised Code, schedule for annexations for council to act on this particular annexation. To either approve it or deny it. If you don't act, it's as if it is rejected. Staff recommends approval. We have been through a number of steps already that you have approved. The applicant's here, and I think they would like to move along as well. There is a companion piece, if you will, on your agenda tonight relative to the rezoning of this property that obviously isn't going to dovetail perfectly with the annexation, but is in process and has been set for public hearing by you this evening. We have a map here should you wish to consult it, but it's about a 90-acre property just south of the airport at the end of Sawmill Parkway. happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions for Mr. Eflin?
I just think, I'll just reiterate for benefit of the public that this property provides additional acreage to expand the city's economic base. The current industrial park, which was established about 50 years ago, is almost at capacity. So these types of properties that are in and around the airport and the industrial park provide an opportunity for additional opportunities for business expansion and relocation. So we're already seeing some of that on Innovation Court, which is off Sawmill Parkway, with some businesses there. So we're recommending approval tonight. It's going to be a long process in terms of the development of this property. It requires probably a public-private partnership in terms of utilities extensions, but that's fairly common in a lot of these projects that we're seeing today. So our recommendation would be approval. Thank you.
Did the applicant want to add anything tonight?
Jack Brickner, 110 Northwoods Boulevard, Columbus, Ohio. Don't really have anything to add to even just answer any questions that the council may have. Thank you.
Any questions for the applicant? What is the wish of council?
I'll move for passage of ordinance number 1837.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Browning, a second by Mr. Rohr. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Good luck. Item 11 is the second reading of Resolution 18-24. Elaine, if you'll please read this into the record.
Resolution number 18-29.
Yep.
A resolution authorizing the city manager to enter in a joint economic development district, a JED contract with Berkshire Township. Mr. Shulman?
Madam Mayor, members of council, we've discussed this quite a few times. This is the first reading. We're going to go 3. We have a public hearing set.
It's a second reading.
The second reading, sorry, we're going to go 3, but we're going to have the third reading at the same time as the public hearing. I apologize. No terms have changed since last time. I do want to let you know that you are going to get emailed to a suggested amendment to make after the public hearing. The state law did change, and instead of charging the JED income tax to just the businesses in the JED, you can do it to businesses and residents in the JED. And so Berkshire Township has recommended that we change ours to match state law. I was going to bring it in advance of tonight, but they requested that we do it after the public hearing. So I will send that language to you already written up for your consideration in advance of that meeting. I just didn't want to surprise you the day of, so I figured I'd tell you in advance. It's a small change to comply with what we can do with state law.
Okay. Thank you. Number 12 is 720 public hearing. Elaine, if you'll please read this into the record. You can read 12 and 13.
Ordinance number 18-43, an ordinance for AEP for approval of a conditional use permit request for a new service center building on approximately 50 acres located on the south side of Slack Road and just west of the railroad tracks on property zoned A1 Agricultural District. And ordinance number 18-44, an ordinance for AEP for approval of a combined preliminary and final development plan for a new service center building on approximately 50 acres located on the south side of Slack Road and just west of the railroad tracks on property zoned A1 Agricultural District.
Mr. Eflin?
Madam Mayor, members of council, these cases are as read by the clerk. This is in support of a new service station, really a replacement service station for AEP. Current service station is at the corner of Liberty Road within the community, and basically with our growing community is they're out of room. And so they have looked around the Central Ohio region, in particular the northern Central Ohio, and have determined that this site, which they own, would make the most sense to build their new service station and keep it within our community and our tax base. And that includes the jobs that are obviously at the existing facility, and there may be some additional jobs as this builds out. You have already approved some tax incentives with respect to this project as a council. And so we have gone over some of the details of this project in a different context. However, the zoning code does require a conditional use for this particular facility, even though it is owned by AEP and is currently used really in support of the substation that's adjacent to it. They're already using the property, as we'll see. This property is located along Slack Road, west of the active Norfolk Southern, I believe, railroad tracks. And is currently zoned A1 Agricultural District. Aerial photograph, should we need to refer to it, but I would point out, it's kind of hard to see on here, maybe easier in your packet on your computers, but there is a cut for lines that come into the substation as well as on the southern piece of this property as well. The portion of the property while I'm on the aerial photograph that they're looking to develop is really the open portion here with the substation and a laydown area here, which is open as well. So to the site plan, because it's fairly big, it's cut in two pieces here, but this is Slack Road is on the north of the screen. There would be street trees and front yard trees added, a 56 space parking lot, the approximately almost 49,000 square foot service center, and the attenuant area for their equipment, proposed garage. Around the facility would be a row of fencing and arborvitae on the west side of this property. And as we get down to the along the tracks here on the west side, there would be maintenance of the existing tree line and also fencing. They obviously need security fencing around this fairly sensitive facility. But in addition to maintaining the tree line, they're going to add basically slats in the fences that appear as if they're vegetation. We've used this before for the Howard Industrial Park, but it'll just give some additional screening to the rather large laydown area. Just want to note really for the record that in the A1 Agricultural District, there are a lot of agricultural uses obviously permitted, being the agricultural district, one of which is essentially tree farming and timber harvesting. And so therefore, removal of trees on this site is permitted by right. That's a long-standing notion under our zoning code in the city, although we don't have a lot of A1 zone property. We do have some, and in this case, we have this property. As you saw, it is fairly heavily treed, although they're going into the open areas. As a result, staff asked AP if they would nevertheless consider a permanent preservation of tree areas on this site, which just to be really a good community steward and kind of treat this as if it was zoned something else. And so what they decided to do was put a permanent tree preserve, as you see here in red, of almost 5.5 acres just north of the Kesselbrook subdivision. They own this as well, and that would be permanently preserved. This provides for the use that they wish to do, screening in conformance with the zoning code, and still allows them to use the property on the west side for the intended purpose. Your planning commission did recommend unanimous approval at their May meeting. You only had one meeting in May, and so that's why it appears on your agenda now for public hearing. Staff does recommend approval as well, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions for Ms. Joplin?
I do.
Okay.
Mr. Joplin, was Kesselbrook Station notified of the changes?
No, our conditional use permit process requires a notification of an upcoming permit in the paper, as well as on our, we go ahead and take the extra step is put it on our website as well. There's no direct notification or signage required under our code.
It really, if I heard you correct, it really sounds the area that parallels the neighborhood, is that pretty much going to stay all wooded except for that? What's the laydown area you referred to?
There's a line of wooded trees. You can see on the aerial photograph here a little bit better. There's a line of woods right here between the tracks and Kesselbrook, and it's about 120 feet right of way and setback from the neighborhood. So pretty significant. Obviously, there's a little bit of grade change in there as well. So the laydown area is basically all this, it's showing as white in this aerial photograph right here.
What is the laydown area?
What's that?
What is it?
It's been tenant farmed through the years.
Oh, okay.
And so that's why I think this is probably just after they cleared the fields or something like that. And that's why it appears that way. But so they'd maintain the tree row and they put in the fencing with the slats as
And then
well.
the trees to the west of the laydown area, are those for staying there or are those going to be cleared?
As far as we know with AP, according to zoning, they could clear them, but they're not intending to do that at this time. Obviously, as trees grow up in this easement around where the power lines are, they clear those trees out for that utility. But
Thank you.
they would prefer to leave as many trees as possible, and they're leaving a significant amount.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Jefflin? This is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the public that would like to come forward at this time? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. What is the wish of council on ordinance number 18-43?
Tonight.
Want to?
Sure. I'll move to waive requirement requiring 3 readings on ordinance 18-43.
Second. I have a motion by Mr. Schaefer, a second by Ms. Keller. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller? Yes. Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
Move for the approval of ordinance 18-43.
Second. Motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Mrs. Keller. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller? Yes. Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes. Motion carries.
Move to waive the requirement for 3 readings on ordinance 18-44.
Second. Motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Mrs. Keller. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller? Yes. Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
Move for the approval of ordinance 18-44.
Second. Motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Mrs. Keller. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller? Yes. Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes, motion carries. Item 14 is consideration of resolution 18-34. Elaine, if you'll please read that one in.
Resolution number 18-34, a resolution in support of congressional consideration of a carbon fee and dividend system.
Chris, do you want to take the lead on this one, or?
No, I mean, you can. I guess we all know what it's about. Nothing's changed since our last conversation about it. Hope everyone would support it. It's just to push a bipartisan effort from the city level, just to our representatives to continue the bipartisan effort that is going on in Congress right now to continue to communicate and look at this program. Like I said before, Representative T-Berry was in favor of it at the time before he left, so it's really it's not an ordinance or anything like that. It's just recommendation from us as a government level, just pushing up the chain. That's it. It's not heavy lifting.
I think do you want to lead off? You all.
Yeah, I totally support any resolution by the city to reduce our carbon footprint and do what we can for the environment. My concern is that this is a significant public policy issue that I don't know that we fully understand all the repercussions of. I just don't know I'm not prepared to support this without hearing from economists and policy analysts what the long-term impact of it might be. I did speak with Pat T-Berry today, and he said he's met with this group several times, and he's open to the idea, but he's not supportive of this at this time for the same reasons that he just doesn't feel he has enough information. There's a bill currently before Congress that he was asked to sponsor, and he wanted to make clear that the reason he didn't sponsor is he just doesn't feel he's at a point now where he fully understands the issue enough to do this. So my position is I support the city's making a resolution to reduce our carbon footprint and do whatever we can as far as the environment. But this specific public policy issue, I just don't feel like I have enough information to support it.
Others on comment, council have comments?
I essentially feel the same as Mr. Schaefer.
I feel the same way. Just haven't had enough time to research both sides, and if we as city council members are going to get into the habit of kind of dipping our toes into national issues like this, our pay grade needs to expand quite a bit. Because we have our hands full with City of Delaware issues, so.
Chris, how would you feel if we just amended this resolution to take out the piece about the carbon tax and leave in the other pieces as far as our commitment?
Well, man, I'd be willing to table it and, take a look at that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in favor of the reducing the carbon footprint and making things more ecologically friendly. But as far as a particular policy, that's where I don't know.
I'd be happy if, depending on what council wants to do, to take a stab at revising it. Obviously, I'll need input from other staff members, but I can do that if you'd like, and so you can table it or take it to another reading, and I can circulate a draft.
Well, I'd be willing to table it and then work with Darren and then work with the local group on feedback as well and try it again.
I think we all support the idea. It's just when you start talking about taxing and when we're not aware of what those taxes are gonna be or anything like that, it's hard for us to fully support this.
Now, just so you know, if you want to hear from economists and this and that, we can bring in all the presentations you want, so.
I'm looking for neutral economists and policy analysts who can provide pros and cons.
No problem. Then I would just make a motion to table resolution 1834.
I'll second that.
So I have a motion to table by Mr.
Are we not
Jones.
going to bring it back then at the next meeting?
I would ask,
Not right
give us
now.
a couple of, a little bit of time it's going to take.
I was just going to say, we don't need to table it if we're going to bring it back up, but if we're going
Yeah, I don't know what's going to come back up.
Yeah, when you table it without a date certain, it just sits on the table until someone makes a motion to pick it up off the table. In the past, when we've kind of been working together on a tabled item, we can often know when that meeting's going to be in advance, so we can put it on the agenda so people know it's going to come up. We can say to be removed from the table, so it's not a surprise, but we'll just have to work together to figure out when you want to bring it back.
I mean, would it be simpler to just have a resolution in support of efforts to reduce a carbon footprint rather than specifically to say the carbon fee and dividend system? Because it seems like this is going to be an awful lot of policy analysis for a resolution that's just non-binding. And I mean, do we really want to put ourselves through the trouble of hearing both sides, pros and cons, and policy analysts coming? This isn't a congressional hearing.
I think we could approach Morpsey about this. They actually offer technical assistance. I think they could probably provide us with some language that would address the city's commitment to reducing its carbon footprint without prescribing a particular approach to doing that. And this does that, and I think it's fair. I've heard the presentations about it, but I do think that it's as indicated earlier. There's different sides to that, and we provided some information in the packet, some reviews of this policy. So I think we could accomplish that. I don't know if that addresses the climate lobby's request of the city, Marion Gable's specific request, and I think the lobby's request is that you support and encourage Congress to enact this carbon fee and dividend system, which is an approach to addressing climate change.
Can we ask if that's acceptable by the group? Is that?
I don't know if there's anybody. Someone here. If you'd like to come forward to the microphone, we need your name and address. I apologize.
I'm Charlene Murphy. I was here 2 weeks ago. Marion Gable is in DC right now, so she's not here. My address is 127 Hillside Drive. I really identify with what Ms. Keller is saying about it being complicated. I had to be part of the group for probably a year and a half before I understood. So it is a lot for you to try to understand when you've got all of these other things, that 500 pages that we saw that you got tonight before this meeting. The reason that we brought this to you was we are really looking to show that citizens and communities are interested and want some action. And this really has been studied extensively by economists, by scientists, and we have all of that. You probably don't have time to go over it, and I totally understand that. So I'm not sure what my request would be, obviously, that you would support us. And we think it would be helpful because we are going to be having a new representative come in, and if he knows, or yeah, it will be a he, if he knows what the feeling of the communities are, and that's the main reason. Did you want to say something?
Right. My name is Laurel Anderson, and I live at 316 North Sandusky Street. And I'm also very sympathetic to the complexity of analyzing the policy. This is an interesting policy in terms of it being publicly supported by prominent members of both parties and by economists from both parties. It's one of the few policies that actually has some bipartisan support, which is one of the reasons that we've brought it forward. And I guess I believe in, in incremental change. If the city council feels like they can take a step to publicly declare that they are in support of reducing carbon footprint, that would be a great first step. But I would encourage you not to stop there, and I would encourage you to remember that any tax that comes nationally is going to be felt by your citizens and going to be implemented by your city. So I feel that the distinction between the national and the local is sometimes difficult to draw. And so if you need more time, I think that's perfectly fair. But I do think that we can also provide a lot of information that we've been looking at fairly carefully for as long as the group has been in existence, which I think is what, our particular group, 4 years, our chapter in this area. But I really appreciate the council taking a first step and looking at the possibility of a resolution.
I'd still just recommend we table it then, work with Darren, work with the group, and then come back with.
I just don't want it to be forgotten by not putting a date up. That's my biggest concern.
I won't let that happen.
Okay.
I mean, Chris won't either, but I take these things seriously.
Okay, so I have a motion to be tabled by Mr. Jones, a second by Mr. Schaefer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes. Item 15 is consideration of resolution 18-35.
Resolution number 18-35, a resolution appointing members to the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee.
Mr. Eflin.
Madam Mayor, members of council, this is an exciting moment of the next step in the comprehensive plan process and bringing forward to you after about a month of work of staff, city manager, our national consultant team, and most especially our 90 incredible number of incredible applicants who, by the way, all filled out every question and every line in the application, which I just find that amazing. I mean, nobody skipped over some of it or declined to answer some of it. So I, for one, really appreciate that. Having 90 made it more complex, but gave us more choice as a community. And that's ultimately a good thing. What we would like and what the planning team would hope is that by getting down to a large, but hopefully workable size group of 31 plus one city council representative, so 32, that we can still have a workable size group, but that the community can look at this list of people at the end of the day and identify with them in hopefully more than one way. So many people wear so many hats nowadays, and I think everybody on this list wears multiple hats in lots of different ways in our community. But I really, some of them are here this evening, and I really appreciate all the applications, in addition to all the staff time that's been taken, not just by me, but by others in the city to go over the list. We did provide some demographic information for you and tried to really balance the committee on a number of different parameters the best we could given the applicants that we had. So I would certainly recommend your approval so that we can continue to take the next steps and formalize the first meeting of the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
I just have a comment. I just want to commend Mr. Eflin and his staff for, one, the job they did. That couldn't have been easy going through 90 qualified applicants and coming up with 31. But we really do have a very diverse group here. And second of all, the document you presented to us kind of outlines that. So great job. I mean, that was a lot of work, and I appreciate the fact that you did it.
Thank you.
The charts were very, very helpful
Yeah.
too.
Appreciate it.
Dave, do you want to maybe mention the addition, the 60, the others who weren't selected will still be approached about being engaged in
Yes,
various
and
initiatives?
that's a good point, Tom. I think I've already reached out to all 90 and indicated that this would be coming before you this evening, but that they should remain engaged and active not only in this process, but in all the other opportunities that there are within the city of Delaware. Citizens Academy is one we saw this evening. We have a lot of Citizens Academy graduates on that list of 31. But there are opportunities within this process for help with outreach coordination and some workshop facilitation, and then some topical discussions. In addition to Access Delaware, which is not the same as the comprehensive plan, but is ongoing and is really the community conversation about roads and financing and all that kind of good stuff. So I've already gotten some responses from some individuals who have indicated they'd like to help us in various different ways, and so we will reach out to those people and hope that everybody, all 40,000 people now in the city of Delaware, are engaged and active in this process. They will be presented the opportunity to be active.
I'd also like to add that the issue we just talked about, climate change, is a very, obviously it's timely, it's important, and it's also a piece of what I think the comprehensive plan, I'm sure that will be coming up during that whole comprehensive planning process as we talk about sustainability and resiliency of a community. That will be a good forum for discussion and recommendations, and so I would look forward to that and note to the community that that's going to be a good opportunity for that discussion.
Any questions for Mr. Eflin? What is the wish of council on resolution 18-35?
I'll move for approval of resolution 1835.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Mr. Hellinger. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer? Mayor Riggle?
Yes, motion carries. Thank you again for your staff and all the hard work you guys did on that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Item 16 is consideration of resolution 16-36. Elaine, if you'll please read this into the record.
Resolution number 18-36, a resolution indicating what services the city of Delaware will provide to 221.341 plus or minus acres of land, more or less. Description and map are attached here to Exhibits A and B for the annexation known as the Central Ohio Boy Scouts of America Camp Lazarus annexation by Michael R. Shea, agent for the petitioners.
Thank you. Mr. Eflin?
Madam Mayor, members of council, you get to listen to me a lot tonight. I apologize for that. But this is a anticipated annexation by what we know as Camp Lazarus, the Central Ohio Boy Scouts of America. Before you tonight is the resolution of services. That's the first step prescribed by the Ohio Revised Code in the annexation process. We've been talking to them for well over a year at this point. I'm tempted to say close to 2 years at this point. And I think really the reason for this is to connect them to city sanitary sewer service that requires the annexation. But I also just think it's a pretty cool use to have in our community, to be honest with you, and at our front door, literally on 23. We will have to bring forward, assuming the annexation moves forward, we'll have to bring forward a series of zone changes to you. One of which is going to involve maybe changing the section of code that we have right now related to shooting firearms in the city. There is an archery and a firearms range on this very unique piece of property. City attorney, myself, and the police chief are already working on drafts of that, and that would be brought forward, again, should this move forward. Tonight is the resolution of services. All departments have had an opportunity to provide comment. There have been no additional comments provided, and so we would recommend approval of the resolution of services as presented to you this evening. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions from Mr. Eflin?
I think it's one of those rare annexations that does not require a great deal of city services. And it's obviously, it's a piece of property that where I believe in perpetuity is, will be a Boy Scout camp, if I'm not mistaken. So it's it adds to our open space inventory for the community without impacting our services greatly.
Mr. Shea, did you want to?
I'll just add a few comments. Jeff Bell would have been here to see me, but I wasn't sure exactly how much we were going to get into detail on this. This came about as the result.
Excuse me, Mr. Former Mayor.
Michael R. Shade, attorney at law, Delaware, Ohio, Post Office Box 438.
Thank you.
I think everything else is on file.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I get yelled at later, so.
That's okay. I understand. Lang called me tomorrow and.
We're becoming very close.
Yes, yes. This came about as a result of the Boy Scouts first looked at an option of coming down Chapman Road. And the price tag from the Perry Taggart line to the, I guess would be the western portion of their facility was about $4 million. Not only did it cause difficulties in cost, but it was also going to be a little bit of a difficult issue environmentally. It was all bedrock. So there were going to be a lot of drilling, probably some blasting to put a pipe down that into the ground. Over most of this property, all the way except where the buildings are, and even where some of the buildings are, there is a conservation easement. Whether the Boy Scout camp stays Boy Scout camp, that conservation easement stays in place. And they're looking at the ability with this annexation to do some expansion of some of their facilities, because now they can upgrade some of them. And they're hopeful that this will continue to be a very prominent green space. On the south side of the map that's shown there, the big wooded area is Seymour Woods. That is a state park, and that is there in perpetuity. So I think it's a perfect location for a lot of green space. It's not going to change. As Dave pointed out, there are some issues. Young men and women now in the Boy Scouts of America can still earn their merit badges. The facility that Dave referred to, the shooting and archery range, are merely there for the training of young people for merit badges. It's not there for, nobody from the public can just walk in and go to the facility. And I'm here to answer any other questions you might have about it.
Any questions? Okay, what is the wish of council on resolution 18-36?
And just to clarify, this just starts the clock. If they pass tonight, the it starts the clock on the required time period for consideration of
Well,
actually.
actually, the commissioners will hear this at their hearing on June 25th.
Okay.
So at that point in time, when the clerk receives the notice, that's really the triggering time when you would, you have 60 days. We have to get everything together and then you can pass it. And I apologize, staff has been tremendously patient with this. It was an extremely difficult, we were not aware that one of the contiguous owners, the principal in that, it was called the Lee Family Partnership, who have been landowners in our community for a long time. They sold the land to Ohio Health, but they've been investors in our community for a very, very long time. But their principal had been out of the country on business for 4 or 5 months, and we didn't know that. And so we didn't have a lot of options to go through, and the Media Investments is the owner on the south side of Ohio Health Boulevard, and they were cooperative, but they couldn't do anything until we had all the signatures. So.
Madam Mayor, I'll move for approval of resolution 18-36.
Second. I have a motion by Mr. Schaefer, a second by Mr. Browning. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 17 is consideration of ordinance number 18-45.
Ordinance number 18-45, an ordinance supplementing the 2018 appropriations ordinance to establish additional funding for the purchase of road salt brine application equipment.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is just first reading tonight, but there should be a supplemental piece of information that was passed out. Apologies that section 1 and section 2 is different from what's in your packet slightly. The amount of funding request is the same. It's just which funds they come to and go through has been modified. But in short, we used 2,900 tons out of 3,100 tons over this winter time. We're able to purchase back 1,900 tons with available resources. And with the other expenditures we had in brine and additives, that used up all allocated funding for the year. We're still 1,200 tons short from filling our salt reserves before next winter. So this establishes the funding so we can go ahead and make that purchase. We just received ODOT's summer salt fill bid pricing today, which is pretty close to what we thought it would be, at about $70 a ton. We were $65 a ton last season. So actually purchasing the 1,900 tons in advance helped. We saved $5 a ton by purchasing that, or $50,000. So that's really what we're talking about tonight, is just authorizing funding to finish the salt purchase before next season. The other part of this too is we're asking for additional $18,000 to advance the purchase of the second brine unit. The current brine unit we have right now, which is mounted on a recycled street sweeper we had from a decade and a half ago, is at its last legs as well. We had planned to purchase that unit next year, and we're just asking for the funds to advance that now. Instead of putting the dollars into the street sweeper and the old tandem axle truck we used to carry that unit around, we prefer just to put that one time into the actual new brine unit. That unit will fit in any of our single axle trucks, so we'll be able to move it around vehicle to vehicle. So both of those elements are part of this. And I can answer any questions now, and we can get the language revised in your packet for the second reading.
Well, I'm just so happy that you're now buying the salt in the summertime when it's cheaper, because if we were buying this in the wintertime, what would the prices be?
Well, the prices, it depends how you buy it, but we buy it through ODOT now, and it's really established every 6 months. We got very favorable pricing, like I said. In Ohio, it's as cheap as $55 up by the salt mines, and as high as $85 to $90. In Southern Ohio, they have to transport it a lot. Central Ohio's in that mid-range, $70, which is very good. If you recall, it wasn't that long ago, we were paying well over $100 a ton to purchase salt. The winter out east was difficult this year and is keeping the pricing up as opposed to dropping back down to the old $45 levels. But being able to purchase in advance lets us play with the market and be able to work with ODOT and get the most favorable pricing for the city.
Well done. And no more making brine and baby tubs, right?
No,
Baby
that's,
tubs.
yeah, I mean, that's worked very well. And this piece of equipment will have two identical pieces of equipment that can go on any of our single axle trucks. So as we have truck breakdowns, we can just simply move that brine applicator to another truck and keep the application going. And we'll be back next meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions for Bill? Okay. Item, let's see, item 18,
Could we
yes.
suspend the rules?
Well, he wants us to come back, I think, because it was wrong in the package.
Okay.
So we'll just correct it. Sorry. Item 18 is consideration of ordinance number 18-46. Elaine, if you'll please read this into the record.
Ordinance number 18-46, an ordinance accepting and approving the recommendations of the Recreation Levy Subcommittee of City Council and supplementing the 2018 appropriations ordinance to provide funding for recreational improvements and declaring an emergency. Emergency clause, that this ordinance is hereby declared to be an emergency measure necessary to provide for the public peace, safety, health, and welfare of the city, and for the further reason to finalize the recommendations for park improvements to be made with the remaining 2008 park improvement levy funds.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor and Council, so we met with our Rec Levy Subcommittee recently to review and kind of tidy up the remaining funds left in the Rec Levy Subcommittee, or Rec Levy, the income tax levy. And what we're proposing is mainly a renovation of a lot of existing facilities. The Mingo facility needs a new HVAC system. That's included in there, and looking at some efficiency upgrades with lighting and windows in the facility. And also kind of the Mingo facility, it receives the bulk of it, but then also looking at some safety lighting around the city on some requests from some trails. The Blue Limestone basketball courts is another consideration in this. It was brought up in that Rec Levy Subcommittee meeting about having multiple uses for that. And I think our first attempt is going to be to really focus on working with the Community Coalition to program these courts, and also working with the Y to potentially program these courts and really focus on that use. There are options if that, after we get in a year to it and there's still some downtime on those courts, there are some options of some multiple other uses that we can look at on there. But we really want to turn our attention to focusing on that for the Blue Limestone basketball courts and working with the Community Coalition on that. The other a big item in there is park signage. We're looking at we had some options with our wayfinding package, but that was a very helpful tool that we've used in this process. And we're looking at updating mainly our community parks, the sign packages on those, and then also some informational kiosks and wayfinding signage in there. We also pickleball has become a very popular sport, and we also have a few, as we know, some items in there to kind of supplement that a little bit. But other than that, I can answer any questions.
So what will these kiosks happen?
The kiosks will particularly have the community park map on them, and then also we will have another. It's a dual-sided, so on the other side we'll have information. Like when the tick season comes around. Posting seasonal information like that, they'll be very useful.
Okay, any questions, Mr. Miller?
We would ask council's consideration of this ordinance tonight, in as much as one of the projects being recommended is the basketball court at Blue Limestone. This is the outgrowth of a discussion we had through the Delaware Coalition work, and it was a recommendation of that group actually last year, you may recall. The other thing to point out is that a lot, and I'll just reinforce what Ted said, a lot of this is maintenance, it's deferred maintenance at Mingo. It's a lot of the work that we did with, not a lot, but some of the work that we did with the recreation levy funds was addressing deferred maintenance. So and at this point, this is in line with council's original resolution, which is not to exceed the $23.8 million that was approved by the voters 10 years ago this August. So this will be the 10-year anniversary, if you will, of the recreation levy, which has, I think, benefited this community tremendously from the not just the recreation center that was built, but from the improvements to the park. So this would finalize that, and as Finance Director Stelzer had indicated in a previous note, we estimate, given current tax collections, that the levy would go through 2026. So, little less than 20 years from when it was established. So there is still, obviously, we are still paying down on it, but it is, as I say, it's improved greatly the city's recreation offerings. So we would recommend approval tonight and would be welcome any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Miller? All right, what is the wish of the council on ordinance number 18-46? There's none.
Move to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings on 1846.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Keller, second by Mr. Schaefer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
I move to enact the emergency clause on 18-46.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Keller, second by Mr. Schaefer. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
Move for approval of ordinance 18-46.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Keller, second by Mr. Schaefer. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
No.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 19 is consideration of ordinance number 18-47. Elaine, if you'll please read this in the record.
Ordinance number 18-47, an ordinance approving a conditional use permit request by Delaware Bible Church for a temporary trailer modular classroom on approximately 7.53 acres zoned R3 one-family residential district and located at 45 Bell Avenue.
Thank you. Mr. Eflin?
Madam Mayor, members of council, this is the first reading. You set a public hearing for your next council meeting. So we'll present it then, the case then fully at that time. Happy to answer any questions you might have now.
Okay, with that, Elaine, if you'll read 20, 21. Yes, just 20 and 21 together.
Ordinance number 18-48, an ordinance approving a rezoning amendment request by Planned Communities, Inc. for property owned by Francis and Mary Lou Wilgus on approximately 89.618 acres, parcel number 419-220-02-005-000 and 419-220-02-007-000 from A1 Agricultural District to M1 PMU Light Manufacturing with a planned mixed-use overlay district at 2781 Airport Road, located at the western terminus of Sawmill Parkway, east of Section Line Road, south of Airport Road, and north of the future extended Sawmill Parkway. And ordinance number 18-49, an ordinance approving a conditional use permit request by Planned Communities, Inc. for allowing the placement of a PMU, Planned Mixed Use Overlay District, to be established for property owned by Francis and Mary Lou Wilgus on approximately 89.618 acres, parcels number 419-220-02-005-000 and 419-220-02-007-000 at 2781 Airport Road, located at the western terminus of Sawmill Parkway, east of Section Line Road, south of Airport Road, and north of the future extended Sawmill Parkway.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, again, these are first readings. You set a public hearing for your next council meeting, and we'll do a full presentation at that time. Again, I extend my apologies for Elaine having to read parcel numbers into the record.
Okay, Elaine, if you'll, let's do 22 and 23, 24. Let's breathe.
Ordinance number 18-50, An ordinance for Manos Properties for approval of a rezoning amendment for the Wesleyan Inn on approximately 1.09 acres, parcel number 519-433-04-005-000 and 519-433-04-002 from POI Planned Office Institutional District and R3 One Family Residential District to POI and R3 PMU. Planned Mixed-Use Overlay District at 235 and 239 West William Street. Ordinance number 18-51, an ordinance for Manos Properties for approval of a conditional use permit allowing the placement of a PMU, Planned Mixed-Use Overlay District, to be established for the Wesleyan Inn on approximately 1.09 acres. Parcels 519-433-04-005-000 and 519-433-04-002 at 235 and 239 West William Street. An ordinance number 18-52, an ordinance for Manos Properties for approval of a preliminary development plan for the Wesleyan Inn on approximately 1.09 acres, parcels 519-433-04-005-000 and 519-433-04-002 on property zone POI and R3 PMU. Planned Mixed-Use Overlay District at 235 and 239 West William Street.
You owe her big time.
I
right?
I do, at least a lunch or two. Madam Mayor, members of council, again, these are first readings set for public hearing at your next council meeting. And I would just note, we just set 3 rather large public hearings. And so with the upcoming cases on your agenda tonight, we will be presenting them as quickly as I possibly can and asking you for passage this evening, assuming they remain non-controversial, which they have up to this point.
Is that enough of a break for you, Elaine? You ready to go again?
Good. Let's do it. Let's get over it.
Okay, if you will read 25, 26, 27, 28. I'm sorry.
All right, ordinance number 18-53, an ordinance approving a request by Terra Alta LLC for an amended preliminary development plan for Stockdale Farms consisting of 322 single-family units on 158.3 acres zoned R2 PMU. One family residential district with a planned mixed-use overlay district located at the northeast corner of Bromiller and Pollock Roads. Ordinance number 18-54, an ordinance approving a request by Terra Alta LLC for an amended preliminary subdivision plat for Stockdale Farms consisting of 322 single-family units on 158.3 acres zoned R2 PMU. One family residential district with a planned mixed-use overlay district located at the northeast corner of Bromiller and Pollock Roads. Ordinance number 18-55, an ordinance approving a request by Terra Alta LLC for an amended final development plan for Stockdale Farms Phase 1 consisting of 66 single-family lots on approximately 42.414 acres zoned R2 PMU. One family residential district with a planned mixed-use overlay district located on the northeast corner of Bromiller and Pollock Roads. An ordinance number 18-56, an ordinance approving a request by Terra Alta LLC for an amended final subdivision plat for Stockdale Farms Phase 1 consisting of 66 single-family lots on approximately 42.414 acres zoned R2 PMU. One family residential district with a planned mixed-use overlay district located at the northeast corner of Bromiller and Pollock Roads.
Madam Mayor, members of council, Elaine, you just want to keep going? You know these by now. These cases are to amend the preliminary development plan and plat for the entire subdivision and development known as Stockdale Farms, as well as amend the previously approved final development plan and plat for Phase 1. One of the items that has occurred in the intervening years since your last approval is that the ownership of this is now under the same control as Terra Alta and the Rogers piece in between the two developments. And so those developers are moving forward at this time, or wish to move forward at this time with amendments, and I'll walk you through these. Your Planning Commission did recommend unanimous approval of all the cases at their June 6th meeting. So the development is located at Pollock and Bromiller Roads. It is zoned planned mixed-use overlay. Aerial photograph, should we need to refer to it. One thing that is not changing is the zoning. that was already put in place by this council. This diagram shows you the two sub-areas of that zoning, sub-areas A and B, which were basically single-family detached homes in A and cluster single-family homes in B as well. The amended final subdivision plat for phase one changes the geography just a little bit from what you had approved several years ago, in that now that phase will come off of the main access point and go across the creek and access what we used to refer to as the west side of the property on the west side of the creek that bisects the property. So here's a diagram. It's probably easier to see in your packet close up. I've taken the color, the illustrative plan that the developer has provided to us, and so you see the overall plan, but phase one is essentially what's outlined in heavy black marker there as well, and up for consideration this evening. So let's just look at a little bit of the history. At Planning Commission, we went into this in more detail. This is summary for you. But this is the currently approved preliminary development plan from circa 2015. Of note is the primary intersection on Broadmiller Road was a standard T-type intersection with a few lots coming off directly of that intersection, very close to it, as well as an intersecting road that was pretty close to it as well. On the left side of the diagram, this has gone back and forth in the 15-20 year history of this development. That was shown in 2015 as a full access point. It has been also a fire emergency access point only in the intervening period. Just flip a couple times here, and your eye can probably pick up some of the changes really quickly, but let me go over 4 of them for you, and these are really the primary ones. Bubble number 1 on the screen is that instead of a T intersection, the intersection type has changed to a roundabout. This has shifted Broadmiller Road more into the development as a result, and away from the adjacent single-family homeowner. So I think with each version of this plan, it's getting better and better and better and addressing a lot of the comments. At least I haven't been here actually for the entire time of this development, but the comments that I've heard over the 13, almost 14 years I've been here, in terms of getting farther away from those homes, providing more opportunities for landscaping, providing some opportunities with the roundabout for some traffic calming on Broadmiller Road, and also some improvements to Broadmiller Road as a result of being able to move this. This is on the jurisdiction with the county and the township, and so a lot of coordination has happened primarily between our engineering department and those 2 agencies as well with respect to those improvements. You'll notice the lots are gone, and the intersecting street previously is now a cul-de-sac, and so the first intersecting street is quite a bit farther back than the main entrance of the subdivision. This will improve, we believe, safety for the residents, but also the motoring public in this subdivision of Broadmiller Road. Bubble number 2 provides a secondary means of public street access across the creek into the western side of the development, in addition to the previously approved street at the top of this diagram, or the north side of the site. That will give 2 public street entrances for not only emergency services, but just the traffic in this subdivision as well, to get in and out of the subdivision. We think this is a valuable improvement as well, and you can see some of the lots have been placed along that street that were lost at the entrance. So we're basically lot neutral in this from your last approvals. Bubble number 3, this entrance then goes back to an emergency access only, which I think will be welcome news for those across the street. And it can, working with our fire department, Chief Donahue, they've been very receptive to looking at these in detail and determining exactly how wide they need these kinds of accesses, so we can minimize that width but provide adequate really fire apparatus access. And in this case, this could either be removed at a point in time when you have all of the access points to the subdivision, or probably more realistically, it simply gets converted over into a bike path connection back into the subdivision. As it stands now, it's only proposed to be 12 feet wide. And square number 4 in red up at the top of the screen was really related to a previous approvals of this body and requests of that adjacent neighbor. You see the home there, to add some additional landscaping at the back of those lots. That was included as recommended by your planning commission and is included in your ordinances here before you this evening to make sure that we just detail and account for those additional evergreen trees along the back. Other than that, the site plan remains essentially the same. I know the applicant would wish to potentially change the name of this subdivision and make the landscaping and potentially the recreation improvements not the same, but at least in harmony with the Terra Alta development and potential Rogers development that none of us have seemed to lay out for the plans for yet. So that may be coming as a future change, sort of coming attractions, I guess, depending on finances. Obviously, if they can't begin the subdivision, there is no future to it. So they're here to amend these approvals. Planning Commission recommends approval, as do we as staff. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions for Ms. Joplin?
Hey, Dave, I have a, not necessarily a question, but an observation. That northern east-west road there, does that define excessive residential speed better than anything else? That's as straight as an arrow.
No.
And I mean, having been involved in this for on and off in various capacities for 10 years, I don't understand why we even allowed that when we platted that, because we all know that's residential speed is always an issue, and that might as well be a runway there.
I hear you. I think it is that part is not changing from your previous approval.
I understand.
I know you
It's just an
understand
observation.
that. Just two thoughts. The thing we're not seeing here is this put in context with the Rogers and the Terra Alta piece. So we're just looking at it in isolation, and it's long and linear. There's no question about that. But that main access point will come up through the Rogers piece and then Terra Alta and actually become more of a, I'll say collector street. Bill can correct me if I'm wrong. Closer to a collector street amongst the subdivisions than that east-west street that you're talking about. So there would be, I assume, stop control at that particular roadway. So it's not just one long raceway, even though it looks like that on the diagram.
Right, and I'll just add what we don't, we learned from past. One of the things, what you don't see is final engineering on any of these things, and even the Terra Alta section. We're looking at, as we bring forth sections of these, is introducing traffic calming concepts into the design, such as island bump outs, curb bump outs, intersection bump outs, things that force traffic to slow down. So this subdivision, all of the Terra Alta, other than what's already constructed, pieces in between, the majority of Glen Ross, south of Cheshire Road, all those will be subject to being able to introduce those types of things into the initial construction to help address exactly what you're talking about. So I don't end up with Hull Drives and Hawthorne Drives of half-mile, three-quarter-mile long roads with really nothing to say slow down in there. So it's a good point, and we're going to be introducing those throughout these subdivisions.
Great, thank you.
Any other comments or questions for Ms. Joplin?
Dave, what's the connection to the north? Is that into Rogers? The
Yes,
road?
that goes into the Rogers piece, and then what you don't see on this diagram is Terra Alta to the north of that.
And that's
It's
another,
be just off the page here, basically.
so those would connect with that roadway?
This road here would connect with that. Now, it doesn't,
Okay.
it connects with a small portion of Terra Alta.
Did the applicant like to add anything? If you'll please state your name and address for the record.
My name's David Denniston with Advanced Civil Design, 422 Beecher Road in Gahanna. Basically, David's covered just about everything that I would have covered. We're here because of those changes. I do believe the roundabout will help. It'll help with speeds on Brown Miller Road. My understanding is that roadway is traveled quite a bit, and with some people traveling a high rate of speed. I have not witnessed it, but I understand, and I've been on the road, and it can be dangerous. So I think this will be an improvement, as Mr. Eflin said. The secondary access to the other side of the creek also helps. But other than that, we're here this evening to ask for your approval of our plan. Our client would like to get started as soon as possible. I know it sounds funny, but we hear Mr. Farino talking about stocking the salt barns. If they want to try to get pavement down, any chance of getting it down this year, we would appreciate your approval this evening to move forward. There is quite a bit of significant off-site improvements with Brown Miller Road and off-site sanitary sewer. So it's going to take a little while to get the project moving.
Okay.
Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for the applicant? Did you want to add anything? Okay. All right, so what is the wish of council on ordinance 18-53?
So our typical policy is to approve at the second reading.
Yep.
I would prefer to just, now that we've had the presentation, at least give the public a chance to weigh in and have it, published in the newspaper and make people aware of it. I feel uncomfortable unless there's a really good reason for approving things on a first.
There was no opposition. I'm not disagreeing. There was no opposition at the planning. That's up to you guys.
I don't know how anybody else feels.
I'm comfortable approving these. I'm good with their issues. We've got all those public hearings the next time that we're already doing.
Yeah, but I mean, to the point that our rules say we're supposed to go 3 readings. So to expedite, and it all comes back to that wonderful sign we all seen in our workplaces, failure to plan on your part does not an emergency make it online. And I'm sorry, that's just kind of how I feel, so.
Non-controversials are approved at second typically, right?
When they're typically, you've done it both ways in the last few years, in my experience. So up to you. But when there's no public hearing involved, and when it's non-controversial, when it's a final plan or plat or an amendment, as it is in this case, you have, on occasion, waived your rules. You can take as many readings as you like, and all the applicants have been advised of that this evening.
Cool.
In addition to trying to clear your agenda for next time a little bit, assuming they were non-controversial, I communicated that to the applicants, but it's at your pleasure, obviously.
There is one line in our guidelines that we came up with. Redevelopment projects that do not require a public hearing may be approved at the first reading. I don't know that necessarily this doesn't fit in that box necessarily, but it does describe when there isn't a public hearing that's required.
It's helpful.
Sorry to interrupt.
Where do you guys stand?
I'm okay with it, going with the vote. For the exception of the rule.
I'm comfortable going forward tonight.
I'm sorry?
I'm comfortable going forward tonight.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings on ordinance 1853.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Mr. Jones. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
Move for the approval of ordinance 1853. Second.
Motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Mr. Jones. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes. Motion carries.
Move to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings on ordinance 1854.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Mr. Jones. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
Move for the approval of ordinance 1854.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Mr. Jones. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes. Motion carries.
Move to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings on ordinance 1855.
Yes. Perfect. Second.
Motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Mr. Jones. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
Move for the approval of ordinance 18-55.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Mr. Jones. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes. Motion carries.
Move to suspend the rules requiring three readings on ordinance 1856.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Mr. Jones. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
Move for the approval of ordinance 1856.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Mr. Jones. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes. Motion carries.
Thank you, council members.
Thank you. Good luck. Item 29 is ordinance number 18-57. And you'll also read 1858.
Ordinance number 18-57, an ordinance approving a final development plan request by Medrock LLC for Willowbrook Section 2, Phases 1 through 3, the Old Adelaide Park Section 3, consisting of 85 single-family lots on approximately 28.5 acres zoned R3 PUD, one-family residential with a planned unit development, and located north of Boulder Drive, south of Cobblestone Drive, east of Harmony Drive, and west of Canal Street. An ordinance number 18-58, an ordinance approving a final subdivision plat request by Medrock LLC for Willowbrook Section 2, Phases 1 through 3, Old Adelaide Park Section 3, consisting of 85 single-family lots on approximately 28.5 acres zoned R3 PUD. One family residential with a planned unit development is located north of Boulder Drive, south of Cobblestone Drive, east of Harmony Drive, and west of Canal Street.
Ms. Treflin?
Madam Mayor, members of council, again, this is for final development plan and plat for what is now known as Willowbrook, Section 2, Phases 1 through 3. A lot of us refer to it as the Old Adelaide Park, Section 3. This is an aerial photograph should we need to refer to it, but it's basically the area between Cobblestone and our community park. This is the original illustrated preliminary plan with the highlighted area in question. Should we need to refer to it? Really, let's get into the diagram of what the request is. The phases 1 through 3 really refer to this action would plat the right-of-way for all of Boulder Drive from Houck through to where it's been planned to go to the east. You see that here in blue and yellow. The green section is Willowbrook Section 2, Phase 2, which includes the 85 single-family lots around Pagoda Loop, Boswell, Limestone Court, Minton Drive, and a portion of Boulder Drive, which would be approved with these actions as well. And they are in accordance with the approved preliminary plan for the number of lots, location, and street layout as well. Your planning commission did recommend unanimous approval of both of these cases, as do we as staff. I don't know if Engineering Director Farino has anything to add to that, but we do think there is some value in at least establishing the right-of-way via plat for all of Boulder Drive. It doesn't change any of the actions that you just recently took with respect to the flats on Houck apartments and the conditions with respect to having to build at least the piece basically shown in blue here in Phase 1. But I think the applicant's intention is, again, to try to, during the construction season that's left this year, construct that piece in blue and perhaps that piece in green. The piece in Phase 3 or yellow would occur with development that occurs and comes before you in the future to the east, but this would plat that right away. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Questions? Ms. Treflin?
Dave, I'm sorry, is the plat all the way to Sunnyview, is it just to the?
Correct.
It is, okay.
The plat for the right-of-way of Boulder Drive
Is all the way to Sunnyview.
but not the lots to the
Got it.
east of Section 2.
Okay.
That would come in the future.
Because this has been a long goal of the city is to have Boulder Drive
It's been long planned too.
connected. That's on our thoroughfare plan, and this provides another network addition. So these projects are helpful in realizing that goal.
Any questions? Would the applicant like to add anything?
Good evening. Ron Sabatino, 3895 Stone Ridge Lane, representing Medrock LLC this evening. We're desirous of finishing this season. To finish this season, it isn't 2 weeks that makes a difference. We're already 6 weeks behind. I'm not going to go into details of why we're 6 weeks behind, but it's 1 day. It's 1 day of not getting things done before rain happens in the fall. We can finish this season and prevent a winter next spring of all of the construction traffic not going down Harmony and Diverson and Cobblestone, with 2 things happening. Approval tonight, and we're awaiting final approval from engineering, which they're almost there. Matt Weber's staff and Bill's staff are very good. We're almost there. When things are approved, contractors can't show up the next day, right? They're not going to even schedule work until things are approved. We have our NOI, we have our SP, our SWIP plan for this. All we're waiting for is final approval for engineering, which they're very close to, and we can finish this year and reduce all of the construction traffic that will be going through Harmony and Diverson and Cobblestone the rest of now through fall. But we can reduce it from November and December and through June of next year with approval tonight.
Ron, what would the sequencing be of the project?
Well, we're starting, again, we have to start first things first. We're starting with the apartments. We have the same contractor who is intending to move right in with his dirt crew. Again, provided, pre-con and so forth with the single family, that the dirt crew will move right back into the single family after we're done with they have to move the dirt off of the dirt piles and so forth that have been there for years. They'll move right back. So the same contractor is not leaving this job. They're going to do the apartments, move right back to the single family.
Questions for the applicant?
I have one. So this gets Boulder Drive built completely to the terminus of Section 2?
The green, yes.
So are we left with a piece?
Well, it's contingent on the further development, the platting and the development of those other lots, correct?
The actions before you tonight would plat the right-of-way all the way to Sunnyview, but it would effectively allow the developer to move into construction from Houck through the eastern edge of Phase 2. The piece that would be left would then come forward at a point in time in the future when they're ready to develop the single-family lots and maybe multifamily area 4 to the east.
And that, just for clarification, Ms. Keller, the remaining amount of Boulder is about equal, about half what it's the yellow to the right, and the yellow at the bottom is kind of the tail to the right also. They showed it on one page there.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's shown in two parts. So the yellow has a match line that starts then back over on the bottom part of the page and takes you to Sunnyview, just to orient you on the diagram.
I do have two quick questions for Mr. Eflin. Again, I presume the conditions are the same as planning and zoning?
That's correct.
And I presume that even though we dedicate the right-of-way for the yellow portion, that bonding that improvement isn't required at this time?
No, that would be required with future development of whatever we're going to call those phases to the east.
Ron, what's your thinking on those additional phases that gets Boulder taken all the way to Sunnyview? Is that, you think that's?
Yeah, well, as you guys all know, you have a housing crisis in the city. And it's all a function of demand. You know, we've sold out of the previous subdivision 3 months ago. No fault of anybody, it's just the processes here. We've been working on this single-family section for over a year. There's been some complications, as you know, with, you know, a storm pond that wasn't where it's supposed to be and so forth, but we've got all that worked out. And I mean, absorption, because demand is so far behind, I'm sorry, supply is so far behind demand. I mean, we'd expect it to happen fairly quickly, that these should be absorbed in a couple of years. And maybe we know now we have to start earlier in the process to go get the next section approved before we're ready to build it. Maybe we have to start more than a year in advance.
Will there be I'm sorry, go ahead. Will there be a model location for this section?
There will be. I mean, I think that although maybe we're all too busy doing other things, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 of the models in your subdivision are functional, not for us. I mean, they're selling houses all over the city from models that were intended to be for this subdivision, and I'm not sure what your rules are for that, but we have nothing left to sell, and there's 3 houses that are, you know, picking on Pulte and selling houses here to other subdivisions that maybe shouldn't exist anymore. But there will be models, and the models will be located on Boulder Drive. I can't read the numbers of the lots there on Boulder Drive.
I don't know where you're going to do the model.
but the models will be, no, they'll be to the left of that. Yeah, over in that area.
Do you have a builder?
We have 2 builders. Rockford Homes is taking nearly half, and NVR or Ryan Homes is taking the balance. We signed those contracts a year ago.
One last question. Go ahead. Will this section be joining the existing Adelaide Park Homeowners Association?
So one of the conditions we've added to this, not sure which one it is in your ordinance, but it's that the HOA declarations and covenants section of what's outlined in green, basically, doesn't preclude the opportunity from those homeowners in the existing Adelaide Park HOA from merging at a point in time. But because of the way these things work, there's no way to force these 2 together at this point. The existing Adelaide is in control of its own HOA. This will be its own HOA, and they could certainly merge at a point in time. So our recommended condition as is planning commissions is that we simply don't preclude that from happening in those documents.
Let me clarify what David said, which is generally accurate. And I'll start by going back to 1999, that the homeowner declarations that were created back then had a window that said nothing after 10 years can be added to the subdivision, period. It's part of your declarations. The only way to change those declarations is to read through the mechanism, which generally is 80 or 100% of your homeowners, to modify that. So nothing can be added to yours. So consequently, the 50 or so lots that we just finished just north of this green section was a new homeowners association. This will be part of that. And the last phase will be part of that as well. Nothing precludes your homeowners association, however, merging with this new one at some later date. And we've added that to the approval. We can't join yours, but that doesn't mean you can't join and merge and figure out, have somebody nice like Carolyn running it. The present manager. Different Carolyn. Yeah, different Carolyn.
Dave, can you show the...
Somebody nice, different Carolyn.
Can you show the aerial, if you don't mind? I just want to point out to City Council that there is a small piece of roadway that will need to be connected, probably by the city, hopefully in cooperation with the contractor and TNR, that would connect our parking lot to Boulder Drive. When we built that parking lot and that extension, we hadn't solidified the platting of the roadway. So there's a section, it's a small piece. I don't know, Bill, if it's how many feet?
50,
It's
40.
small, but hopefully we can get all of that done at the same time so that we can provide another connection. That was always the intention. So I just want to make you aware of that. Another advantage of this extension is to provide that access point in that parking lot that would get out to Boulder. It just provides another exit out.
I think it looks great.
Okay, any other questions for Mr. Septino? This is not a public hearing, but I've got a few people in the back. Before we do anything, if it's not lengthy, I'm going to let you come forward because we may vote on this tonight, and I don't want you to say you never had the opportunity. So what did you say? I know this is not a public hearing. Don't look at me that way.
Okay, I just wanted, there's just a couple of things.
That's fine. Name and address for the record, please.
Nancy Campbell, 900 Canal Street. One of the things, I'm happy that this area will be developed. Right now, we've got about 3 feet of weeds behind us in that whole place, and I've got mosquitoes like crazy. So that's one thing. One of the things that I notice in the area as it is right now is excessive flooding when we get a lot of rain. If we have heavy rains one day, 2 days, 3 days, there are huge, massive lakes, and we get the geese, but there are lakes. And what I've noticed just from talking to people in my neighborhood is that some people have 2 sump pumps and their basements are still flooding. So I would like to see if any of that can be addressed as this is being developed. It's just a concern of mine. So that's really all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else? Bill, do you want to address that at all?
Well, if we're talking about any of the area within the green area, all that will be designed with storm sewer inlets to pick up all the roof drains, roadway drainage into a storm sewer system. Right now, it's just an area void of any drainage. So as everything around it kind of developed, that field has really no place to go. This will put the storm infrastructure in place to capture all that storm water.
Then how come like in Lerner Woods that...
Come back to the microphone, sweetie. It's all recorded, sorry.
So then my concern is Lerner Woods, I think that's the name of it, the one across from Adelaide. Though they have excessive flooding. I would assume that they had the same preparatory, that preparation work done, and they're getting excessive flooding. So I don't know. I just want it to be addressed. So, and in concern for the people spending a lot of money on a new home. So.
Yeah, Heatherton referring to Heatherton across the road, which is just south of it, had a number of issues, including some blocked storm sewers, some erosion control, had a downstream collapsed storm sewer. All those things led to some of the flooding issues we saw over the past several months there, and all of which our utility department has been working on and engineering to resolve those. So kind of different issues. So again, at this point, if you're on Canal Street, which you back up just to the east of this, we'd hope we'd see significant improvements in the whole drainage in the area once this is in place.
Thank you. What is the wish of council? 18, ordinance number 1857.
Move to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings on 1857.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Keller, second by Mr. Browning. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
Move for approval of ordinance 1857.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Keller, second by Mr. Browning. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes. Motion carries.
Move to suspend the rules on ordinance 18-58.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Keller, second by Mr. Browning. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
Move for approval of 1858.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Keller, second by Mr. Browning. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes. Motion carries. Okay, item 31 and 32, ordinance 1859 and 1860. Elaine, if you'll please read this in the record, please.
Ordinance number 18-59, an ordinance approving a final development plan request by Pulte Homes for Heatherton Phase 7 consisting of 28 single-family lots on approximately 7.198 acres zoned R3 PRD, one family residential with a planned residential district and located west of Houck Road, north of Boulder Drive, and south of Benjamin Drive. And ordinance number 18-60, an ordinance approving a final subdivision plat request by Pulte Homes for Heatherton Phase 7 consisting of 28 single-family lots on approximately 7.198 acres zoned R3 PRD, one family residential with a planned residential district and located west of Houck Road, north of Boulder Drive, and south of Benjamin Drive.
Mr. Eflin?
Madam Mayor, members of council, again, these are final development plan and plat for the 7th phase of the Heatherton development, consisting of 28 lots on a little over 7 acres. This is the piece that's basically parallel to Houck Road of Heatherton. It would start the first piece of Boulder Drive on the west side of Houck as well. Here is an overall view of the approved preliminary development plan with the section in question outlined for you. Your planning commission does recommend approval, as do we as staff. The 8th and final section, I will try to outline right here with the mouse. I know it's hard, but that would be the lots to the west of what's outlined in green here, and that would then construct that piece of Boulder to essentially our corporation line as it stands today when that comes forward. Steve Peck is here with Pulte Homes as the applicant, can answer any other questions that you might have. I'm happy to answer any questions that I can as staff.
Any questions for Mr. Eflin? Would the applicant like to add anything?
Only if you have questions.
Any questions for the applicant? What is the wish of council on ordinance number 1859 for this final development plan?
Move to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings on ordinance 1859.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Mr. Jones. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
Move for approval of ordinance 1859.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Mr. Jones. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes. Motion carries.
Move to suspend the rules requiring 3 readings on ordinance 1860.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Mr. Jones. Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
I'll move for the approval of ordinance 1860.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Schaefer, second by Mr. Jones. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Mrs. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Browning?
Yes.
Mr. Rohr?
Yes.
Mr. Hellinger?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Schaefer?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes, motion carries. And item 30, oh, no, we don't have it. Skip 33. Woo-hoo. 34, city manager's
Yeah,
report.
real quickly, I'll be out of the office Friday and this weekend. And a couple of other items, the Now Watershed Festival, that wasn't mentioned, but that's this weekend as well. So add that to the list of things to do in Delaware this weekend. I'll be attending a vision and stakeholder meeting together with Bill Farino for data in connection with their long-range visioning that they're doing now. That'll be this Thursday. I want to just hats off to Lee and everybody else, police chief, fire chief, involved in the New Moon half marathon. I think I heard that was a tremendous success, and look forward to more of that in the future. The technology assessment I sent out earlier today. Actually, Jackie had sent that out. When you get a chance, take a look at that. It provides a pretty good roadmap for moving ahead with a number of recommendations for our technology department. And I had the privilege of going to the Eyes of Freedom. If you didn't get a chance, try to get it at some point. It was really very, very moving. And hats off, obviously, to Mayor Riggle and the work that she put into that. Thank you.
Mr. Jones.
Just real quick, I agree with the city manager. The Eyes of Freedom was unbelievable. I mean, well done, Mayor. Just real quick with the Half Moon Marathon, there was no issues door-wise. It was our first door.
Actually, we got a very, very little feedback. I think it was very generally positive.
I got positive. We had one cup color issue, so I consider that a non-issue. Otherwise, I think.
Teenagers weren't running wild in the streets and,
There's no debauchery, no.
yeah, no shenanigans, more.
It actually kept a lot of people downtown.
Good.
I think a lot of people enjoyed the event since they could move around.
Great. That's all I had, Mayor. Thank you.
Mrs. Keller?
I agree with the comments about the Eyes of Freedom. It was a pleasure to be able to take my children to something so close to home and have an opportunity to talk to them about sacrifices. So thank you very much for bringing that to our city. I will be out of town this whole next coming week, and I will be back after that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Browning?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Rohr?
No.
Mr. Hellinger?
Two things.
Okay.
Ted, just a follow-up and hope and pride and reminder, hopefully the Y is getting good attendance numbers for Mingo this year. And I just want to make certain that that doesn't fall through the cracks so that when we ask for that in October, it's like, oh crap, we didn't do that again this year.
Yes, I asked that last week, and yeah, they are getting those numbers you requested down there, or from those people, so.
Excellent, thumbs up. Second thing is a couple incidents have been brought on social media over the last 3 or 4 months, having to do with people walking dogs and dogs getting out of control, lunging at other people. There's one that was just a week ago where a lady got, according to this lady's story, she was jogging, somebody was walking a dog the other way, a younger teenager. The teenager lost control of the dog lunged at the lady, punctured her arm.
the girl refused to identify herself or whatever. You know, so she was all, you know, do I have to go get rabies shots, this and that. I looked for a resolution on that today, still haven't seen that. Obviously, we have leash laws, although our leash laws say they're supposed to be on a 6-foot leash, and a lot of, let me phrase them, lazy and inconsiderate dog owners use 20-foot retractable leashes, and just because they're too darn lazy to learn how to walk their dogs. And you can't control a dog with those. But I would just like to see us do some more social media and some other type of communications, letting people be aware that they are responsible. We do have leash laws, and the owners are responsible for being able to control their dogs. When I was walking my dog on Lincoln yesterday, day before, young girl, 15 years old, give or take, walking a German Shepherd. The German Shepherd weighed more than she did. The German Shepherd all of a sudden, he wanted to come over and get real friendly with my dog. It just drug her. That girl never should have walked that dog. She can't control it. And those are issues. Luckily, that dog didn't have ill intent, but if it was, it would have been meaningless. And, you know, so I think I just see more and more of these incidents. I think we really need to get ahead of this, educate the residents of our city that there are leash laws and they are responsible for being in control of their dogs, and they're responsible for anything their dogs do. Because there's just a lot of these incidents going on. That's all I have.
We can follow up on that, George.
Okay.
Your request.
Mr. Schaefer?
Thank you. Just two little brief comments. One, I'm really inspired by the level of citizen involvement that we've seen tonight. 18 people spent the better part of 5 months learning about the city, and 90 people applied to be in the steering committee for the comprehensive plan. It's great that our citizens are that way involved. And secondly, I met with Jackie Members' staff today and approved an RFP for the smart meters, which is the sticker on the meters. A lot of people pay by apps, so that project's moving forward. Another way to improve a parking situation downtown. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right. I apologize for losing it tonight. That happens every now and then.
That's why I'm
That's right. My backup. And I had the opportunity to go on another honor flight on Saturday. It ended up being a 23-hour day because our plane was 3 hours delayed. We had a veteran that had to go to the hospital, and then with the storms, it was a tough day, but it was so rewarding. So if you know anybody who, World War II, Korea, or Vietnam, that used to go on that flight, Columbus has flown over 5,400, and I want to see it keep going. We're taking a break now till September, but it's so important. I talked to all 4 of my veterans tonight before I came in, and they're just kept saying that's good about the whole program. Even though we were 3 hours late coming home, it was awesome. So, and with that, I will look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We adjourned at 9:12.
Are we going into executive?
No.
We
No?
don't have.
Did you get the email today?
Yeah. Darren sent something out.